Mitch Motormus here, coming at you with a Rate My Ride Road edition. We are out here at the Mountain Highway, so also known as the 1 and 20. So this is at the Mount Dandenong end, coming down to the basin where we are at the moment. We will probably end up coming the other way just because it is a fairly short road, so I'll give you a length once we get down to the bottom. I'm pretty sure it's 5 or 6 kilometers, if that. Yeah, so talked about all the different criteria, so we're going to start off with the accessibility first. So we're out in the far eastern suburbs, so kind of right before we get to regional Victoria, but it really is only with weekend traffic, maybe 45 minutes from the CBD. It's a fairly simple drive. You just essentially just drive straight east and you end up here. The other really good thing it has going for it with accessibility, it's really easy to find. It is a really simple drive, but there's heaps of petrol stations around, heaps of places to stop for lunch, and all of that. So it's not just a good road, it's fairly close to everything in terms of the sort of things you need on a day out. Yeah, so for accessibility, it is really good to get to, really easy to find, fairly close. I think my opinion might be a little bit biased because I do live like 10 minutes away from here, so it might be a little bit coloured by that. But so the accessibility I'm going to give a 7 out of 10 because it's really accessible, really easy to find, really easy to get to. So yeah, so accessibility 7 out of 10, great road to find. Yeah, so our next criteria we're going to talk about is, we're going to skip the length until we've actually got the length. So the traffic, this is where this has a really big downfall, and it's actually pretty quiet today, which is surprising for a Sunday afternoon. The 1 and 20 does get very busy, but there is one side benefit of the busyness, is that a lot of the times it is cyclists, and they're really easy for us motorcyclists to overtake because we can overtake them even when there's a car coming the opposite direction while cars can't. Yeah, so it does get really busy. Weekdays this is actually really quiet. So if you have the time to get up here at like 4 o'clock, 5 o'clock in the afternoon, do that instead of coming out on the weekends. Especially like a Saturday or Sunday morning, it can get quite busy. Coming uphill isn't as bad, but coming downhill can get quite busy. I'm not going to bother overtaking this car for this, especially when I'm just going to be doing a loop. So the so the traffic, I'm going to kind of put a scale on this one and say it can be anywhere from a 2 to about a 7 depending on when you're here, but more consistently it's at that lower sort of rating of like you kind of, it does get really busy. Yeah, so there's a big downplay of this, is that traffic. So it is ranked quite low. Does get really busy because it is a bit of a thoroughfare between being on the mountain and having access to this. So the next one we'll talk about is the condition. The roads usually in pretty really good condition. You know, not a whole bunch of debris, but there is the odd occasion where there's been some, especially recently, there's been some big storms in this area particularly. which means that there's some damage. You can see there's a whole bunch of cracks, there's a whole bunch of this and that on the road. So the condition does vary a lot on this road. The other big kind of downplay for the condition is the fact that it's so shaded. Is when it does get wet, it stays wet. So it's very hard for it to dry off because the sun can't really get through and shine on to get rid of any wet patches and stuff like that. So there is occasionally some really dangerous sort of wet patches on this road, so it is something to be pretty careful about. But you know, still I think better condition than roads like Reefton, EJ, those roads that are maybe a little bit less travelled. That being a big factor into why those roads aren't as a good condition, because, well, the councils don't really look after them as much because people don't travel on them as much. Yeah, so the conditions, I'm going to kind of give it a 6, just because, you know, it's good, it's not the best. You know, actually, let's go with a 7, because Reefton I'd probably give a 5 or a 6, so I did just say it's better than Reefton. So yeah, let's go with 7 for condition. You know, it's a good road in terms of condition, but there are some things sort of wrong with it. Yeah, so about a 7 out of 10. Just because we're getting close to the ends of the road, I'll start talking about the length. So length, it is really short and sharp, but you know, you're sitting and looking at about 6.5, 7 kilometers. I'm just looking at my odometer and when I went through there, so it's still, you know, it's not, you know, this like 30 seconds spurt where you get a really good road and then it's over instantly. There is still some substance to this road, so there's no real big complaints, oh it's too short. I think it is a really good length for beginners, right? For people that maybe aren't used to putting, you know, 30 minutes, 40 minutes of proper riding in while they go through. My glove's just not on properly, so I'm just going to fix that. You know, so it's sort of a good length, so I'm going to give it an 8 for length. Right, it's for beginners. I think for kind of more experienced riders, maybe a 6 is more realistic. And I'm just going to use this roundabout to turn around, so we've actually hit the end of it already. Yeah, so not super long, which can be a good thing sometimes. And of course, bloody idiot. That goes, yeah. And yeah, there's a kind of a downplay for this road, is that sometimes it's a little bit there. So what have we got left to talk about? We've done accessibility, we've done traffic, we've done condition, we've done length. Alright, chainability. This is where this road kind of is really good. It's probably, in my opinion, one of the most chainable. So I talked about chainability was it's being able to find other twisty roads. The can access straight after this road. You hit one right at the top, although that road kind of will rank kind of low on the overall scale. It is another nice beginner road, and it has some really nice views. It is the ranges, it is the mountains, so of course it's going to have some nice views. But the chainability is really good. There's plenty of access to roads. They're really easy to find. You know, I'm going to be doing eventually some videos on all the roads that almost directly come onto the 1 in 20. You can only do sections on them if you do the 1 in 20, so it's a bit hard to do a particular road like that. But yeah, so chainability, I'm going to go really hard on this one because this is probably one of the most chainable roads I know, and give it an 8. Right, I'm not going to give it a 10 because there probably is some more chainable roads that I just haven't ridden yet, and I don't want to go, okay, well it's 10, and then find a road that, you know, you can just like basically make an entire day of twisties out of, between it and the other roads around it. Yeah, so an 8 for chainability, so it is a really good chainable road. You can have this as the start or the end of your ride in terms of when you're riding as a group, and it works really well for that. Alright, next one, speed limit. Now, a lot of these roads in this area all kind of suffer from the people in this area can't drive mentality, and the mentality that people don't know how to drive the conditions, don't know how to choose to drive 10 kilometers under the speed limit because there's no option to, because it's soaking wet or there's debris everywhere. So it does suffer from that sort of mentality and the kind of the tourist mentality, if you will. And so the speed limit is 70 for the most of it. It does get a little bit shorter, a little bit lower, a little bit higher up, and near the bottom, so when you're getting access to the areas, but that doesn't matter so much because you're pretty much done with all the twisties by the time it drops up below 70. So 70 is a good pace for this road for a beginner, and for most riders, especially when you do have to occasionally pass some cyclists in some awkward spots. Going a controllable speed, not the worst thing in the world. So yeah, the speed limit, I'd probably go with maybe a 7 out of 10. The speed is pretty appropriate for this road, but some people might find it a little bit low. I don't think anyone's going to find it too quick. Realistically, no one should find the speed limit too quick, because if you need to adjust your speed, just do it. Right. Yeah, so that's all of our sort of main criteria done. So it talks about, you know, there's some great views out here. I think if you're coming out here, you shouldn't just come out here for the ride. You should come out here because there's some spectacular views and kind of soak it in a little bit and all of that, and there's some good food available, and there's some nice little cafes and stuff on the top of the mountain. Yeah, so I think, you know, going by that is really good twisties. Have I actually talked about twistiness? I don't think I have. No, I don't think I have. Really good short, sharp turns. Really, you know, fun. Generally, you don't run out of space. Although that guy should have waited to overtake that cyclist, but anyway. Force someone on the opposite side of the road to you to brake, you've done the wrong thing. That's a very simple thing. Yes, the twistiness, probably for beginners, like a 9 out of 10. For intermediate, higher riders, probably a 7. But this is a really good beginner road. I've really talked about this as a really good beginner road. It's not a road, going back to sort of our overall rating, the reason I'm going to sort of give it the rating I'm going to give it is because, so there's one big sort of fundamental thing with this. This isn't a road, unless you're a beginner or a local, that it's really worth just to come do just this road on a ride. It's a nice road, but it's not long enough. It's not fun enough to go, hey look, let's just go and do Mountain Highway, unless you live in the area. It's like me and my mate from Bayswater love coming here. Mate that used to live, you'll remember Brock from my Kuma Run series if you watched that. He used to live up in the mountains, so this used to be a very regular ride. Mason lives in the Bayswater area, so you know, this is a really good area for us just to become potters around after work, or you know, if we've got a spare hour on the weekends, maybe 2, if we want to add a couple of extra roads to it. But it is not, yeah, so I'm gonna give it, for beginners, like an 8 out of 10 overall, and drop that down to about a 5 out of 10 for your more experienced riders. Like how we waited until the end of the road to pass. It's a very thoughtful thing about him. But yeah, so if you are enjoying this sort of sub-series or series, and you think it's a great idea, make sure to comment on the video, like, subscribe, all that jazz. Make sure to follow my Instagram, and just leave any comments for suggestions of other roads to do, and until next time.